Well, good morning, everybody. This is the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board, and I would like to call the July 28, 2022 Hearing Board meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll and swear in the witnesses?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Before I call the roll, I would like to note that all members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. For the record, Vice Chair Schlick and Member Powers will not be present for today's meeting. Member Gonzalez?
Present.
Member Spencer?
Present.
Vice Chair, Chair Rodriguez?
Present.
Thank you. I would ask that the following individuals please identify themselves for the record. Hearing Board Counsel.
Molly Helms, Senior Deputy County Counsel, Counsel for the Hearing Board.
Air Pollution Control District Staff.
Julie Byford, Civil Actions Investigator. Mary Mahoney, Civil Actions Investigator. Mia Williams logging in shortly. He's coming.
Okay, let me make sure that he. Okay. I don't see him in the waiting room yet, so we'll go ahead and proceed, and then we'll have him identify himself for the record, and if needed, we'll re-administer an oath to him.
Okay.
And then I would like to note that for the record, that there are no petitions today before the hearing board. I will now swear in those that wish to provide testimony on any item on today's agenda. This includes any members of the public or APCD staff or petitioner. Please turn on your videos at this time and raise your right hand for the swearing in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in the matter before this hearing board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. So before we begin our administrative items, even though we have the members of the public present, have we received any requests from the members of the public that wish to address the board today?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. We have not received any requests from members of the public to address the board under these items. However, if there are any members of the public on the teleconference line wishing to address the board under public communication, please raise your hand now by pressing #9 or using the raise hand feature on Zoom. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to provide public comment at this time.
Madam Clerk, before we proceed, I believe that we have two people joining us. And that is APCD. Oh my gosh!
I know.
Mr. Jack, all my tells are going everywhere right now. Mr. Jack and Vera Tiagi, maybe.
No worries. APCD staff that have recently joined, will you please turn on your cameras and identify yourselves for the record.
Sure. It's William Jacks, Chief of Compliance for the district.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vera Tiagi, and I am County Counsel for the APCD.
Thank you. I will re-administer the oath for Mr. Jacks because he was not present during the time that I administered it. So please be patient with me. Let's see here. William, will you please raise your right hand for the swearing in? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give on this matter before the hearing board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City of San Diego, Mr. Rosales, were you able to also participate in the administration of the oath?
Yes, I was. I did it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, I will go ahead and hand it back over to you.
Thank you so very much, Madam Clerk. And I believe now everybody on my administrative items have been completed and everybody is ready to start with the administrative items, particularly the approval of statement of proceedings for July 14th, 2022. Of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board statement. Have the members of the board had a chance to take a look and review, the statement of proceedings? And do we actually have any comments from the members of the board?
Yeah, I reviewed it and have no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am, I went over it. I don't have any comments at this time.
Thank you very much. I do not have any comments either. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve.
Do I get a second? I will second. Madam Clerk, there is a motion by Member Spencer. I second that, the motion. Could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will now continue with the voting via roll call. Member Gonzalez?
Aye.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes with all members present voting aye, with the exception of Members Powers and Vice Chair Schlick, who are not present for today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item C on the agenda as it's established today is the continuance of the teleconferencing meeting option pursuant to Government Code Section 54953 within parentheses E. And I'm going to ask, Madam Clerk, to show, the wording of the Government Code section, for everybody's benefit. In the meantime, while that is, Mia is getting ready to show that Government Code section, I would certainly ask, the expert on the panel, Dr. Spencer, as to the status, of COVID within the County of San Diego. Go ahead, Dr. Spencer.
Yeah, so the test positivity rate remains high. It doesn't seem to be going up or going down. We seem to have hit a plateau over the past month or so. We're still pretty much in the 20s. Every now and then we'll bump up into the low 30s in terms of test positivity rate. Thankfully, the hospitalization rates and death numbers haven't gone up as well, but there's still quite a bit of COVID out there. And, because also there's no new guidance from either state or county public health officials, I think that it's a good idea to continue meeting by teleconference, and I think we can make the findings necessary to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer, for your expert opinion. Certainly I am also tracking that independently as well. As a public health, expert, certainly I do agree wholeheartedly, with your statement, and professional judgment, Dr. Spencer. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like, to discuss anything further? Because if not, we could definitely move, towards to approve, for continuance of teleconferencing.
No, ma'am, I don't have anything to add. I'd like to move to continue it.
Okay. Well, I believe, that there's a motion by Member Gonzalez. Do I get a second?
Madam Chair, if I can just clarify, was that motion to continue or to adopt?
To adopt, the continuance of the government's code, section 54953 within parentheses E.
Thank
So
you.
that's a motion to continue teleconferencing. How about that if we actually say, in plain terms? How about that? So now that we actually have a motion, do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. So there's a motion by Member Gonzalez, seconded by Dr. Spencer. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Gonzalez?
Aye.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes with all members present voting aye, with the exceptions of Members Powers and Vice Chair Schlick, who are not present for today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So let's actually move to item D, as in David, on our agenda. And we will now receive the progress update for petition 4521, a City of San Diego Point Loma wastewater treatment plan. So I will, since this is a presentation by the City of San Diego, I will just, allow maybe APCD, to give, some summary, statements, of the status, and then allowing Mr. Tom Rosales, to continue with his presentation.
Good morning. I'm going to defer to Tom to present first. I believe he has a couple of slides that he's put together that are really good to show some of the work that has already been done and steps moving forward, and then we'll provide comment afterwards. Thank you for the chance.
I mean, thank you, Ms. Byford. So Mr. Gonzalez, I mean, you definitely have, that presentation, and we're looking forward, to that resolution. So please, go ahead. I do not know if you schedule, the work, with clerk of the board, but I'm just going to allow you guys to do the technology aspect, behind the scenes. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Again, I'm Tom Rosales, Assistant Director with the City of San Diego's Public Utilities Department. I don't think my slide will be very long. They're mostly visual, but give me a second here and I'll start sharing.
I believe I will, if you give me one moment, I will make you a co-host and you should have access to be able to share your screen.
Okay, everybody can see that?
Yes.
Great. There we go. Again, I'm Tom Rosales, Assistant Director with the City of San Diego Public Utilities Department, providing an update on our project. And this slide here, just a little bit of context, very quickly. It's the Point Loma wastewater treatment plant. Treats about 175 million gallons per day, has a capacity of about 240 million gallons a day, and serves not only the City of San Diego, but the region, about 2.2 million residents. The treatment process is mostly removal of water, which gets sent out to the Pacific Ocean, but there is leftover solids material, and that's kind of the root of the issue here, is that material is managed in our anaerobic sludge digesters. Hard to see on this picture, but there are 8 of them kind of in the background, sort of a greenish marine colored circular tanks in the very back of the treatment plant there. So we have 8 of those. The solids materials goes in there. Imagine 1 gallon of sludge going in there, and it would spend about 15 to 26 days in that tank before it would be pulled out and then pumped to another location and actually what's called dewatered and sent out to farmlands for soil amendment. While it resides in the digester, the biological activity creates methane gas, which then goes, and you can see my last bullet point there, it's a beneficial gas and it's used for power generation at this location. Both the city has a power generation operation, and then we have a private entity that is also, that operates a power generation. This is a useful schematic to kind of give you a sense of the gas production, how it works. So if you look at the top there, the N1, N2, C1, those are a depiction of the digesters. And it cascades over to the right to our flame arresters, the waste gas burners. And it's the far right, that's the private power generation company. We call it the BUDGE, beneficial use of digester gas. That line of gas from the digesters going to the right over there, that's not under pressure. It's essentially sent over to those locations just with the normal pressure from the digesters. If you go down to the bottom of the slide, that gas is actually compressed. You can see the gas compressors there and sent down further to the very bottom of the schematic here. That's the city's power generation section of the treatment facility. So gas compressors compress the gas to a higher level of pressure, and we generate power by using engine generators and or using some of the gas to run boilers to heat those digesters. They do have to be heated and maintained at about a 98, 99 degree temperature inside. I won't spend much time on this, but the issue at hand for 4521 was to meet certain conditions. There were 7 initially. These 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 have been met. So I'll spend time as opposed on condition 6, which is really why we're here today to talk about. So this condition was to return to compliance with no digester gas leaks from the pressure relief valves and the hatches measured by a handheld gas analyzer. So the picture on the left is an old PRV prior to our project. You can see corrosion on some of the elements of that unit. Point Loma, because it sits next to the ocean, anything metallic has lots of opportunity for corrosion. You can see that pretty well in that picture. And then the picture on the right is a brand new PRV. So we have 8 digesters, 2 PRVs on each. We replaced all of them. And on this picture here, a little explanation. So we installed everything in April, got it up and running, and then we had some emissions detected by an inspector of APCD. So what the city did was we took the initiative to contact the manufacturer, bring them out to make sure that they were installed properly. So the way these work, maybe I'll go back to the previous slide, so you can kind of see on the right-hand corner there, that was sort of bell-shaped at the very top of the PRV. Bell shape is removed here on this picture. Manufacturer came out and determined, you see those little discs that are actually, they're housed underneath that bell-shaped. They were not properly installed, or there were not enough. So those are in place to essentially work in conjunction with the pressure from the tank underneath. And so not having them properly installed, or not enough of them, allows for emission escape. So manufacturer came out, looked at everything, inspected everything, and got everything properly adjusted and properly installed. And you can see the letter on the right-hand side from the manufacturer saying, yeah, we're good to go now. So that took place in early June. The other part of condition 6 was to replace gaskets and or hatches on the digesters. So they were all done. All of the gaskets underneath, you see the depiction of an old hatch on the right corner there. There's a gasket underneath. All of those gaskets were replaced. We found that 1 digester and 2 still had leaking hatches despite changing out the gaskets underneath. So we've actually ordered a new hatch. The hatch you see there is actually going to be replaced next Friday, August 8th. And at the same time, we placed both gaskets again on this digester. So that should get us completely clear of having any leaks from those digesters. Last slide here before I go to some questions, actually second to last slide. So what are our next steps? We obviously continue to monitor and assess pressure relief valves and our flame arrestor emissions. Let me grab my little pen here. Give me a second. I don't do this too often, but I think it's worth highlighting. No, I don't think I can do that. I'm a little challenged, but if you can see the middle bar here, maybe you can see my cursor here under pressure set and vacuum set. Again, I'll try to grab my pen here, but essentially, there we go. There, I'm trying to, can you see that circle there? That's what I want to talk to. So the manufacturer has a certain venting rate that the units are able to meet. And that venting rate is 0.5 cubic feet per hour at 95% of the design set point of 12 inches of water column. So what does that mean? Inches of water column is a measurement for measuring static pressure. So these units are not completely sealable. They are very close to that. So 95% means that if the water column or the standard is 12 inches of water column, then these units will only start leaking at 11.4 inches of water column. So an important point to make there is the second bullet point on my slide there on the left-hand corner. So if the manufacturer says, well, at 11.4, they're going to start leaking because that's the only standard we can meet. It's metal against metal, and so you're not going to get a perfect seal. We are going to make a program change in how we alarm and monitor the system. So when we see in our system that the water column, inches per water column gets to 11, we are going to alarm the system and turn on another flare so that we never even get close to 12. We never get close to 11.4, which is the standard where the manufacturer says they are likely to start leaking because you're at 95% of that 12 inches of water column, if that all makes sense. So we can come back to that if there's some questions at the end. So if we do a change in the flare system to, at 11, we're going to generate a daily flare deviation report and control sheet to show that we did that. We're also going to order 2 additional monitoring devices to help make sure that we have enough on hand. And at the moment, we have staff in dialogue and I think a draft application with APCD staff to consider some permit modifications. Those would be prescribed maintenance and record keeping changes on how we manage the entire system. I think those are good steps, and maybe William can speak to those at the end. And I think actually that's it. So be glad to cover any questions, or let me stop sharing. We'll go over anything that wasn't clear. There we go.
Mr. Rosales, this is fantastic. I truly believe, that Point Loma wastewater treatment plant has taken, engineering steps and mechanical steps, to definitely study and get to the root cause. And of the issue actually that plagued you, forever. Having a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, now your set point, is 11, inches of water, column on that one. When your set point actually is reached at 11, is that a localized alarm? Is that a remote alarm, to your central station? How is that going to be managed, for example?
So the facility has a very large control room that is manned 24/7. There's somebody actually at, I wish I had a picture of that. It's a very large room. It has the entire plant and every element, every piece of equipment, every probe, everything on a schematic, on a dashboard, on computers. And so they can see every little thing that's alarmed. And there are thousands and thousands of things alarmed throughout the plant. So to answer your question, it will be monitored 24/7 because we are actually staffed in that room 24/7.
I appreciate that. Now, do you, however, and I'm speaking from experience, by the way, is there a physical inspection in addition to, the remote monitoring? I truly believe, that there should be a program, that incorporates both, because I have seen definitely some of those points, PEG, or actually not being responsive whatsoever on your monitors. It looks fantastic, but it has to be both. A physical inspection as well as, that monitoring,
So there's a physical inspection by our operations staff twice a day. So basically they walk the entire plant and look at a variety of different things. And then on the maintenance side, those probes and that information is also under a maintenance schedule to look at and inspect and make sure that those sensors and those alarms are within the range of how they should be operating and providing data.
So the points, actually of your handheld, and definitely the physical inspection, for all of these elements, these are documented on your daily, worksheets. So that there's a history and the trends and everything else that you can do, on that one. So, okay, so I'm happy with that. Definitely. So, last question, different a little bit. What is the warranty, on the parts, and what is the warranty on installation? Because we all know, that definitely you receive, and you pointed out, corrosion. It's extraordinary, where you are. So to be honest with you, my question is, when do you expect, granted, this is, crystal ball right now, because we're now generating data, but what is the warranty on those parts, and installation?
Yeah, good question. I don't have an answer for you, but you're right. The environment out there is much more corrosive than, say, a similar treatment plant in the middle of the country. And so the expectation here is that the maintenance activity will be more robust and frequent to make sure that they're operating properly. I'm guessing, if I just had to make a guess off the top of my head, that the guarantee for these units to operate properly they're well engineered, and industrial equipment is probably 2 or 3 years, just a complete guess on my part. But that doesn't really matter. What we're going to do aside from that is make sure that they're on the frequency, maintenance the frequency that, again, make sure that they're operating like they should be.
I know, I mean, I think it matters, because we all know, that particularly from a financial perspective, everybody's budget is very tight.
Right, right.
Seen things in the past, I mean, whether it be government or, private industry, I mean, everybody's tightening the belt. So that means though that you and your group and your director need to be on top of the budget, so for replacement, maybe before the warranty expires, so that's why I bring up, the question. So again, I'm very curious, to see, how, that these type of modifications, persist. I mean, hope and the longevity of it, for your site. But thank you very much, Alice, for that, summary.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, and Julie can chime in if she wants, but we've learned a lot in this process on a whole range of things, from operational to maintenance to engineering. And so the benefit of having gone through this, lots of benefits, but one of them is to better understand our system and be more mindful of how to manage it. So hard way to get there, but and we spent a lot of money getting there, but again, there's some usefulness at the end of this process.
Including the collaboration amongst everybody. So that's
right.
What...
Yeah, that I don't want to let that go aside. Julie and the team have been great. And yes, the collaborative approach to getting us to this point today has just been outstanding. So kudos to the staff there.
No, thanks. Member Spencer, Member Gonzalez, do you have any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
At this point, I don't. I am curious to hear what APCD staff has to say about this process as well.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Member Gonzalez?
Ma'am, yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Good. I mean, well, Ms. Byford, I believe now it is your turn.
Yes, thank you. Like Tom said, it's been a pleasure working through this process. I've also learned a lot through our process and procedures, and they've done a great job of getting most everything up to speed. And the PRVs were a huge undertaking, and they're still working through, I know, some other things. And as Tom mentioned, 30 of 32 hatches are not leaking, but that still remains 2 that are. One, the hatch that has been ordered and I believe is supposed to arrive on August 5th. We've known that one has been leaking for a while and was part of the initial findings that kind of led to the stipulated abatement order. And then in this last inspection, the second one was found leaking, and they're also, thankfully, it's on the same tank. And so when that's taken offline for the replacement of the new hatch, the idea is that obviously both of those would be fixed, and we just would need to verify no leaks were coming from those. So, I don't think that we can close out the stipulated abatement order quite yet because there are still some issues. So I'd like to suggest maybe providing the city to provide another update in September. September 8th is what I would propose, but I'm up for discussion on that. That allows a month for the hatch to arrive and get installed and work through the gasket replacement and work through any other issues on that N2 tank that still has some leaks. I will say the permit modification has been sent into the district to work on the language of the permit conditions related to this. So that's great. It was submitted on July 22nd with the fees paid on the 25th. So that should allow some time for our engineering division to just see if the permit modification application has been deemed complete, which is important. So I'm hoping we should be able to get through to that. And then, part of the permit condition says all air pollution control equipment must be in good working order. And there has been some breakdowns related to the flares, which Tom briefly mentioned. And while it's not necessarily directly related to the pressure relief valves and hatches on the SAO. It still is part of the system, and they're working through some maintenance issues with those, but those not working can, sorry, I'm losing my word, result in some digester gas emissions when they don't flare properly. So we're still working through that, but I think by the September 8th meeting, I'm hoping that all of these things have been addressed and we can start moving towards no more updates.
And if I may chime in and add to Julie's, if that's okay. Again, I also do want to say that the city has worked obviously very hard on this, and the big crux of the issue initially were the pressure relief valves. I think there was a small hiccup a couple months ago. It has been resolved, and I think we're well on our way in that department, which is great. Like Julie said, there's the unresolved couple of hatches. But just kind of for transparency, we did issue a violation in, I think it was May for that. And then as well as there, like I said, the flare, there was, it looks like my understanding, an electrical issue that allowed release of digester gas where the flare was not able to turn on. So it's that kind of thing where we kind of at the end of this would like to say, there are no compliance issues before we close out, but I think we're close, and I think there's been a lot of great progress. But I just wanted to mirror what Julie said. I think looking at this one more time, hopefully just one more time in September, would be a great recommendation. Hopefully the city agrees. And yep. Yeah,
Not that I don't enjoy meeting with you folks, but yes, if we can wrap this up in September as thumbs up on everything, we're open and willing to do that.
Great.
Honestly, I totally believe that September, the first meeting, is a little bit too tight, because if they just receive the materials, on the 5th of August, you're giving him pretty much 1 month to tighten this up. Maybe a little bit of fine tuning, maybe warranted on that one. So I definitely agree, in September, but I would definitely suggest it would be the last meeting in September in lieu of the first. Again, we've all been there many times. There's fine tuning, and fine tuning is as much as science and technology as it is an art. So I think that we should be looking towards that. That will be my proposal. So questions, Dr. Spencer?
Yeah, no, I agree that we can't quite close this out yet, though I'm definitely impressed with the progress that's been made. I think that one more follow-up is a good idea, and September, I think, would be just fine. I would take either meeting would be fine, although I understand the city is eager to close this matter out. So if everybody thinks it could be done on the 8th, I would be okay with that. Otherwise, we can defer to the 22nd.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Member Gonzalez, any feedback or any questions that you have?
Ma'am, I don't have any feedback or questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pfeiffer, Mr. Jack, end of September instead of the first meeting. What do you think?
Rodriguez, I think you make a very good point, and allowance of time just to make sure all items are addressed is so wise. So I agree. I think end of September might be a better meeting date to follow up.
I totally agree. Totally fine with September 22nd, I believe you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Rosales, what do you think? September 22nd to come back. To put the beautiful bow on this project. There have been a lot of lessons learned. Also on my end. I know that I made the motion on that one, but I think that it will be for everybody's benefit. So.
Yeah, I'm scheduled to be on vacation starting on the 20th, but that doesn't matter. I can have somebody take my place and again give the final update, which I think will be very brief.
Okay. Well, if that is the case, I definitely do appreciate you coming here with a fantastic status update. And thank you certainly for the collaboration, because this was not a small project, to endure. So I would definitely, make a motion. That definitely we accept the presentation from Mr. Rosales. Mr. Rosales, can you provide the presentation to the clerk of the board so that we can enter it as Exhibit 1?
Yes, I've submitted the presentation to staff, I think on Monday, so they have a copy of it.
Excellent. And then I would move definitely that not only on acceptance, but also that you will provide a follow-up, the report on status on the meeting, of September 22nd.
Right.
So that's the motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, I made the motion. Dr. Spencer seconded, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Member Gonzalez,
Aye.
Member Spencer,
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that item passes with all members present aye, voting aye, with the exception of Member Powers and Vice Chair Schlick, who are not present for today's meeting.
Thank you so very much, Madam Clerk. The last item on the agenda is a little bit of a discussion, and it has to do with revised hearing board rules of procedure. The APCD hearing board has had hearing board rules of procedure for quite some time, and definitely they provide organization and structure, to the meetings that how we conduct ourselves, shall we say. Then there was, we had training, from the ARB fairly recently. And we took a look at the need, to definitely review and definitely revise, the hearing board rules of procedure. We had a time, with Emily, which is the APCD counsel, for the APCD, and me and myself, and we took, kind of a first pass. Actually, the brunt of the work actually fell on Emily's shoulders, but then we actually do have a draft, prepared. So I'm going to have, the Council Helms, that provide us a summary and where we're actually going to go with that.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. So as Chair Rodriguez mentioned, we have a working draft of our update to the rules. We don't think it's quite ready to share just yet. We're working through a few issues. But on that point, we're interested in today hearing from, the members of the public and the district and other hearing board members about any particular changes they would like to see, so that we can incorporate those changes into our final draft that we'll present to the board.
In the back, Dr. Spencer, have you, do you have anything to add, to this request from Council Helms?
I'm sorry, to have a discussion about the rule changes, or I guess I'm trying to understand the question.
Oh, yes, of course. So the right now, we don't have the draft in front of you, obviously. Yeah. We just wanted to know if there were any general concerns you had that you would like us to address while we're still working through. And if not, maybe you want to take a look at the draft first, and then we can discuss at the next meeting.
Yeah, it would be helpful for me to look at the draft first before I said too much else. I understand why it may not be ready for public discussion and comments from members of the public, but I would like a chance to review it so that I feel like I could say something intelligent.
Yes, of course. And mostly the changes, the rules haven't been updated for some time. So we're mostly just updating so they can be current, not refer to, outdated technologies, a lot of them. So.
Understood.
Mr. Gonzalez, would you like to add anything to this? We will definitely provide you the draft, the working draft for comment.
Yes, our goal is to have that provided with the noticing for the hearing board so that everyone can take a look and have time to review and provide meaningful comments.
Perfect.
Yes, ma'am. Without the draft, I don't think I'd be able to give any relevant input. Yeah.
I think my only other comment, Chair Rodriguez, is that while it's not required and the board could adopt the rules with just a quorum, the board might consider trying to schedule a date when the full board can be present to adopt the rules, just because it's a decision that affects the entire board. So something to consider.
No, definitely, I do wholeheartedly agree with you. Everybody needs to, definitely weigh in and provide their feedback. So thank you. I mean, Emily, Mr. Jack.
Yes, I have some thoughts. Definitely, without seeing the draft, it's hard to comment and guess what you guys were thinking. But definitely, I have steps updating. I think seeing the rules many times. It is, looks like drafted in the 80s or 90s, possibly. I'm not sure how far back, but it looks like it. So and also keeping in mind, if there's turnaround too within the board, seeing the challenges of a new board coming on and learning all the nuance, all the different, variances and types of petitions and what everyone's role is. So I think, spelling that out, I think that might be helpful more. And then possibly, I think probably the thought early on was to have it more general. So to allow flexibility, keeping flexibility, of course, is needed, but then also some structure where it's like, okay, for this, we need this. I'm thinking differences of processes in the abatement order versus different types of variances. When is good cause related to emergency variances, and again, thinking about how that relates to our Rule 98, possibly. I think there's sometimes potential confusion there. You don't need a breakdown from Rule 98 to get to an emergency variance. So some flexibility there. I think we could provide that potential comment once we see a draft. Just to spitball in here. Then again, thinking I think the timeframes are pretty well thought out in the past. I know for emergency variances, when the beginning of the period of protection begins. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's that spelled out, and maybe it is. Yeah, I haven't looked at it a little bit, but I remember it's like on first contact, I think, with the district. I think actually it is. That's right. So those kind of things, time frames of petitions, as well as the differences, and then more importantly, the board's role in each of those, like what exactly they need to, there's for regular variances, most variances, the findings, but then when you get into good cause, I think there is sometimes confusion. So I think, if it's possible to spell that out to help the board members, so there's consistency, and then also if there's turnaround in the future, because I think this is a great opportunity to think not just from today, but down the road, as in, it's been 20 years since we looked at it. This was looked at last. So
yeah, I think there's a reference to what was, oh gosh, some technology, it was like videotapes and whatnot. We don't really do that anymore.
Exactly. So kind of keeping the language open for maybe that too. Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely see a big need. Just from my experience, just some thoughts, but definitely very open to seeing the draft and providing comments. I think this is a very good exercise to go down. So
well, thank you for your comments.
Sure.
So thank you so very much. I mean, those are definitely very relevant to that. I mean, and when the rules, the draft, the working draft actually distributed, I mean, with the next noticing, because this is noted for August 11th. We don't need to vote on August 11th. It's to start the engagement and the conversation and things of that nature. Okay, so then that will actually have a fairly healthy, discussion. On the board rules. Personally, I want to see some sort of a logical order. I think, that the roles, is really very important. Mr. Jack, so thank you for bringing that up. But also that, again, allows flexibility. People that know me know that I'm a visual learner. And if it's not on a graph or a table, sometimes I'm not interested. That's why I love the timelines. So if we could definitely incorporate something along those lines, that is easy, because oftentimes, we get lost in the pros, so, and so something visual that says, okay, go here, go to that rule. I think that will be something that we can actually work on. But great feedback.
Noticing, I didn't mention that. That's great. Absolutely. Have noticed that, like when, the noticing and the timelines when a meeting will be in relation to when a petition is received. So
yeah. So again, these are rules, that it's not only for the order, of the hearing board, but definitely, how it is that we're going to be engaging with everybody, out there. So to bring everybody back into compliance, that's a role we need to be, really very customer oriented as well, as much as we can.
Absolutely. Another thought I think also is like this middle of content. I think you have that. It can be upon approval, but I think that is a piece that Yeah, I think that I've seen changes over time on that. So I think spelling that out so everyone's on the same page is helpful.
It's
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah,
there.
you're already. I know you've been a part of it, so it makes sense. It's there. And also before I don't know if we continue on or not, but I wanted to take an opportunity. Our new council did swear in, but I also wanted to formally introduce her to the board as well. Our council, Vera Tyagi, which we're very ecstatic to have on board. So I just wanted to kind of just mention that real quick. But yeah.
No, so thank you. I mean, Mr. Jack. I actually have to say, so I believe, that we have, some marching orders. I mean, with the comments that we have received today, I mean, to take a look at that, working document, I mean, and release, something and addressing of the comments that we have received today. It will go out, I mean, for distribution, and then we're going to hear it, I mean, on the 11th of August. Again, that is not to say that we need to vote. This is an engagement. This is something that is going to last for years. So we need to make sure that it's not only proper with regards to the content, but also allows the flexibility and also sometimes forward thinking, I mean, on the technology and how we're going to be engaging with each other. Okay, so when you receive that, I mean, make sure, I mean, all the members, I mean, to have, definitely a very open, futuristic mind, I mean, on how we're going to be working together for the next, for at least not 10 more years, shall we say, so. Any other comments on this? Because I would love, to have, Vera say some words, I mean, to the board. Perfect. So let's close now that item. I do not believe, that there's a need to vote, I mean, on that one, because it's just, it has no decision whatsoever. I mean, but Ms. Tyagi, welcome, so I would love, for you to provide some introduction, and because we definitely look forward to working with you.
Well, thank you very much. I also look forward to working with everyone here. So a little bit about me. I come from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, where I was a principal deputy county counsel, and I was there for about 12 years, mostly working on the advisory side of things, although I did have some exposure to the hearing board. So I worked a lot on CEQA matters and the indirect source rule and other types of rule development and the air quality management plan and that type of thing. So I started with the APCD about a month ago, and I've enjoyed meeting everyone. Everyone's been great, and I look forward to working with the hearing board too.
Well, thank you so very much. I mean, we know that the activity at South Coast is way, higher than what we actually have in San Diego. On a personal note, I love, that we're really very low key. I mean, addressing everything, I mean, that to our petitioners. So that's a positive, I think, so, but definitely looking forward to working with you and everybody else, I mean, on the team, so.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else, I mean, from the members of the board of the APCD? Okay. Well, I mean, that knowing though that there's nothing else on agenda, I believe, I mean, and definitely there are no additional comments, I would like to thank you, I mean, everyone, for the time that you invest, I mean, on making sure that our air quality improves every single day. And so that concludes our business for today. So the next meeting of the APCD hearing board will take place on June 11th. Excuse me, that's a whole different thing. It's August 11th, 2022. Now we're looking forward, I mean, well, with that, thank you very much and have a great week.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Everyone, thank you.